welcome to For the Record. Tonight we have with us the Women in Business Awards recipients. We have the FCCC General Manager Operations, Saini Chiuta, and also FBC's Radio Manager, Shammi Lochanlal, to talk to us about their achievements and their struggles as women in business. Good evening and welcome to the show, ladies.
Good evening.
First of all, congratulations to both of you. I know that FCCC won Employer of Choice Awards, and you had picked up the prize on FCCC's behalf. Talk to us about your experiences with FCCC in the past year.
Well, this past year has been a very interesting year for FCCC. Just last year, we launched our strategic plan, 2018 to 2023. So we've actually gone through a lot of transition phases. If I may, when I first joined in 2016, I was lucky enough to be part of that transition phase where it was Fiji Commerce Commission and we were transitioning to Fijian Competition and Consumer Commission. So I was lucky enough to be part of that phase where we had to change from that PIB Commerce Commission to FCCC to where it is now. And I've seen a lot of changes, and I'm glad to be part of the changes. I started off as a manager legal, risk and risk management and governance manager, and now I am the general manager operations. I've just got it this year, but that transition phase of that progression for me personally has happened quite quickly, but it has been a very interesting year so far.
And Shammi, you've had a very illustrious career, more than 30 years in the broadcasting and media industry, and you've been recognized for your capabilities and your achievements in the past few years. But getting Senior Manager of the Year award, how did that feel?
Quite an overwhelming and awesome feeling. It was quite an honor to be among very successful Fijian women, and to be recognized among all these successful women was a great achievement too. I feel great. For me personally, it boosted my confidence, and going through the process itself was a great achievement. It was quite a rigorous interview process which we went through. So going through that level of interview was in itself a progress you made, because such interviews take you to another level. And that in itself is a great experience.
And your experiences in the past year working with Women in Business as a non-profit organization, how's it been with all the events that they've had in the past?
We are media partners with the WIB, Women in Business, our television arm. We have had great opportunity to network with other women and get to know a lot of other women. I think that in itself is a great strength to know each other. And we have been attending WIB networking session, WIB, I think, dating sessions with other women, and meeting a lot of these successful women.
FCCC's CEO Joel Abraham recently came on For the Record, and he had mentioned that there's a 50-50 ratio going on right now in terms of gender dispersion in the workplace, from top tier right down to the bottom. Talk to us about how that has changed in the past few years and what brought about this particular balance of equality in the workplace.
Well, in 2015, I came in 2016. In 2015, there was only one manager, one female manager across the board at FCCC. So when I joined, I became the second female manager. So that is true. Since the last year, there's an equal 50% male to female ratio, from executive management all the way to senior management and our support management. Executive management, there's Joel Abraham, and then there's myself as General Manager Operations. And at management level, we have our Manager Economic Regulation, female, Manager Price Control and Monitoring, female, Manager Legal, Risk Management and Governance is female. And the other core functions is in HR, compliance and competition, and finance, they're male. So when I say 50-50, there's 3 males, 3 females. And also at support level, our project officers and also coordinator operations officers, 50-50 ratio is that clear.
Shami, you have a sort of different approach in your particular area. You've got 6 different radio stations that you have to manage with 6 different programs directors. 5 out of 6 of them are women, which is very women-oriented. Talk to us about how you manage to get them motivated on a day-to-day basis in a dynamic workplace like FBC.
Well, when I was appointed manager radio in 2011, the scenario was totally different. There were more male and the very successful male program directors. And then we had, as I went along, we had vacancies, right? People left for greener pastures, or some contracts came to expiry and other reasons. And then I said, okay, what do I do now? So then I identified women within the departments, because it's like 6 radio stations. In total radio, I have 90 staff. That includes the 6 program directors and the deputy program directors too, and then all radio producers, presenters who also contribute to hosting programs on FBC TV as well. Then I saw some women within the team, and I saw, you know, how you see a diamond which is sort of like hidden under the earth, but you know that you can polish it and it will become so. You see the skills already in them. So I identified these women and I started working with them. Some of them say, no, I can't do this job. I said, no, you can do it. So I put my faith and trust in them. I started building their confidence. I started working with them. We started working together. And I tell you, 5 dynamic female program directors, result-oriented. They produce great production values, and they've taken radio to another level. And they work very well with all other 6 program directors, like one is a male program director, but they all gel together and lift the station. They've lifted station to an extent, and when anybody talks about radio at the moment, it's all about FBC radio stations, Gold FM, Today FM, Radio Fiji 1, Radio Fiji 2, Bula FM, Mirchi FM.
When we're back from the break, we'll discuss some of the challenges that these women face in their workplace. Welcome back. Saini, so I've just been told that you are also the acting CEO of FCCC as we speak tonight. Talk to us about how you feel about that. What are the challenges that you face, not only as a female in the workplace, but holding such a position of power?
Well, yes, I am acting CEO. I've just got appointed just last week. And I was just sharing, I think, with you earlier, what a strenuous week it was. I think it's just the female in us. I mean, we're just so good in multitasking, and we work great under pressure. So this past week has been really an eventful week. But as being an acting CEO, it's just, to me, it's just another level, something that I've up for it, I've always been doing, but it's just another position that I'm holding this week. But getting things going, I've managed to get a lot of things going. The organization doesn't stop if I'm not acting, or if there's no CEO, the organization doesn't stop, it keeps going. And we make sure that everything is done accordingly every day, day in, day out.
But when you're in a position like that, there's a very difficult line that anyone needs to walk, regardless of their gender, walking the line between being a leader and being an authoritative figure. How do you manage that?
Well, I don't have a very authoritative approach. I always have an inclusive approach. I always ensure that my staff, my team are always ready, they are comfortable enough. We always ensure that there's an environment, an inclusive environment provided to them. We give them flexibility at their workplace. I've shared also that we're not clock watchers at the office. As long as you get your work done, we're happy. But you know, you always, as a leader, you always have to provide that environment to your staff. You also must have that understanding within you. For instance, I mean, say for instance, I have a manager, she's currently pregnant and she's from the West. I've told her, see, at your third trimester, you gotta go and stay and work from the West. I don't want you risking coming to Suva and work in Suva, and then, you know, by the time you have to give birth, you have to then go home. So we're very flexible with our team. We not only have a flexible policy, a working hours policy, but we're very understanding towards them. I mean, not only to the women needs, but also to our male employees as well.
Feeling the same question to you, Shami. How do you walk the line, making sure that rules are being followed while also providing room for creativity and for innovation in a dynamic place and also in an ever-changing workplace like FBC in radio?
See, any organization needs to have rules and boundaries. It is very important. Even in personal lives, we have that. And whatever religion we belong to, there are certain guidelines. And these guidelines are not there to discourage you or to hammer you or to demotivate you. But it's important that an employee or a staff understand all these things. So my role as the manager, working with the program directors, is to sit with our team and tell them, why do we have these guidelines? Why do we have these rules? And once they understand all these things, life becomes easier. Everyone is on the same page, and everyone is striving for same goal. And that's how radio has worked. We are a giant media company in the Pacific. I may not be wrong if I say in the South Pacific too, if you look at our neighboring South Pacific Island countries, and having the most number of employees, 6 radio stations out of 14 staff in each radio station. It's a lot of people to handle, a lot of people. When I say people, I'm talking about the emotions. I'm talking about that you need to feel them, you need to understand them, you need to love them, and you need to include them in all decision making. How is that possible? At the end of the day, it's all about servant leadership and walking together as a team. And that's how we've been very successful. And as far as the rules are concerned, yes, there will be times when 1 or 2 will drop the ball, but we pick them together. We always encourage our team that if you're stuck or if you do not know anything, raise an alarm, raise your hand. We are all there. We'll work together. We'll help each other.
Now, generally in the past, days of old, of course, there used to be this mindset that women were too empathetic and that would hinder their performance in the workplace, wherever it was. Is this still continuing, or have you seen a change in this?
I've seen a change in that. I believe, this is what I believe, and I've taken my cue from parents too. Even normally, sometimes I wonder, why do parents scream at their toddlers? If someone does anything wrong, they'll go all berserk, screaming on top of their voice. You could hear your neighbors doing that. I said, hold a minute. That child is not an animal, but a human being. It's your child. Why can't you talk to them in a nicer way? So I always used to think that when I was not a leader, when I was not a manager, and I said, one day if I do become a manager of any department, I said, this will be my approach. I'm going to talk to you like a human being. Because screaming, throwing fits, is a bad leadership attitude. You need to have empathy. Now, empathy doesn't mean that you become so vulnerable and you're so weak. It's not weakness. But sitting to someone and asking, okay, so tell me about yourself. Tell me about your family. Why are you struggling in this area? What can I do? And every time I see a bad leader who screams, I always take a cue and say, I'm not that person. I go and do a better role play as a leader. So empathy is a strong point. It's not a weakness, but it's how you handle it.
Of course, you agree with those points.
Definitely, I agree with it. I mean, it's not a weakness. It's actually a strength, I would say. I mean, having that ability to connect with your staff, having that ability to understand your people and allow them to progress, you know, understanding that. I mean, you're not hindering it, you're allowing it to happen. And you don't actually say, hey, you know, okay, see, this is workplace, it's different. No, you're able to make them open up. They're more able to work better. I mean, if you give them that environment, they'll be able to work in a better, I mean, the productivity-wise, they'll be more efficient, they'll be more effective, and that has been happening.
You've highlighted some of the positive points that FCCC has within its workplace structure that encourages women to actually be actively involved, and that's why you've got the award, of course. But talk to us about whether or not you personally feel that women, not just yourself, but women in the workplace in general, feel the need to work twice as hard to prove their worth, or to make sure they're not seen as less than their male counterparts?
Well, I haven't seen that happen in the organization, to be honest. Our organization, as I've said earlier, we have this inclusive environment. We always have this inclusive approach. So I have never seen that as a hindrance as far as FCCC is concerned. I mean, first of all, I'd like to say that, you know, the government has been giving this free education to all children. I mean, not only at primary school, high school, but also at tertiary level.
Just
So-
before we go to break, Shami, what about your thoughts on the same matter?
We, at FBC, everyone is hired based on merit, whether it's a man or a woman. But if you see globally, women have struggled to get that recognition. They do when it comes to pay, when it comes to other things. But the good thing about here at FBC is Geraldine, you work with us, you know that we were the first ones to introduce paternity award, I mean, like leave to men. We also had a gym where people could go and relax and de-stress. So in our organization, it's all merit-based. Look at you. You're such a successful, for the record, host. If you look at other departments in FBC, it also depends on the leader of any particular organization. For an example, if I may talk about this award, the WIB Senior Manager of the Year award, I was so stunned, I must say, by the way the management team celebrated my success. And it did not stop on Friday evening when I received the award. It carried till last Friday. To my surprise, I picked up Vijay-san and I saw one big whole page and the words written. I said, oh my goodness, we were at conference last week. The senior management was celebrating there, and then I bumped into my CEO on Saturday while I was shopping, and then he came to me and said, can I please have your autograph? I said, please don't embarrass me. So it's the feeling from the top, the type of vibe you get from the top management, senior, your boss. It what filters through, and I think FBC is a role model in that area, and I'm so fortunate and blessed to have been working in this place. You know, I don't think I want to resign as yet. I keep telling my boss I'm not resigning.
We'll put a pin in this, and after the break we'll be back with more, talking about support. Welcome back. Now let's look at support, both within the organization that you work for, support from family, support from your community members and your peers. How has it been in the past decade? Let's just look at the broader picture. You've both worked at different organizations before. What's changed from before till now?
I would say it's perspective and your mindset. I mean, 10 years ago, I was sharing with someone as well. 10 years ago, for a female at a young age to be holding a GM post is like, whoa, how did that person get it? But now, over the years, it's like, oh, that's normal. I mean, that's an amazing achievement on its own. So in terms of how things were 10 years back, it has changed definitely, dynamically over the years, and it's just the way people's mindsets are. I mean, at one point, all that traditional thinking has changed, all that family support has changed. Even now as I speak, my husband is with my son looking after him at this moment. I mean, back 10 years, no, it'll be different. My husband would be sitting here and I'll be at home looking after my son. Or not my son, my husband wouldn't have allowed me to be here.
Shami, you've got 2 lovely daughters. Talk to us about your experience being a mum in those days and the support that you received both at home and in the workplace then compared to what you see happening to young mothers and females in the in FBC right now.
Well, I received a lot of support from my husband at that time when I first started in railway industry. That was in '86, right? I got married in '89. I had my first daughter my first child in 1990. So at that time, mentality of Indo-Fijian man was very different. But I was very blessed to have married to someone who was very, very understanding. I did not interfere with his work. He did not interfere with my work. He never called to say, why are you late? That's amazing. Sometimes I said to him, I said, wow, you are great in this area, you know. So he supported a lot. Had he not given me his support, I would have been emotionally drained and upset, which means I wouldn't have been able to focus. Whereas at that time, the work environment was totally different. Women were not as recognized. I was the first female woman to be to head a particular radio station. At that time was Radio Nurchi, 98 FM. And then later on, it also depends. I keep going back to who is the head of the organization. At that time, the head of the senior management team did not have that openness or mindset or that vision to appoint maybe a woman with so much caliber or experience to head a team. It was always man-oriented. So you're a man, you can head this business. But in 2011, when my CEO joined this organization, and I had just come back from Singapore after covering Red Carpet Awards, he came to me and said, I want to talk to you. And he said, I want you to head the department. And I said, wow. And I said, well deserved, because I had worked in this industry for many years. No one recognized that. No one gave me that platform. And I always wanted to be on that position because I felt that I was called for a higher job. I'm not bragging, I'm not being proud, but I think it's time that women should start speaking of their experiences, where they belong, and they should be bold enough to go and sit down with the CEOs in a nice manner to talk about the achievements and what their goals are and what can they do with the company. We can't be silent and keeping quiet to be recognized. That's what I feel.
Now, a lovely point to note is one of your daughters, Tanisha, she's a law student. She's also a young businesswoman of her own. She's an entrepreneur. She's got a nail salon business going on. Talk to us about how you managed to get her encouraged to stick with both studying and also to start off with a brand new business. In this day and age, starting off business is easy enough, but to maintain it is very difficult.
Interesting. I never had to motivate Tanisha, but maybe she thought that how passionate I was always very focused with my job. That in itself was a motivation for her. She started a business with no money, a zero balance, no capital. So when people talk about you need to have capital, it depends in situations and scenarios. She was studying law at that time and she was planning to get married. And she said that, why is it only a woman can get her nails done when it's time for her to get married? Because it's so expensive and that's a lifetime thing you should do. She said, no, I think every woman should be able to enjoy this luxury. So she went online, she started, I was a guinea pig most of the time where she would paint my nails. It was very excruciating, long waiting process. And I said, no, but she kept doing that. My husband used to discourage her from buying online, but she was very determined. And so with $40 on hand, she started learning that. She got married, juggled a business. She started charging women less than what they would pay for it other places. And now she has a fully fledged business, 1 year old in July. She's venturing into it and she's graduating as a law student. She's finished all her law
And she's very young, she's in her 20s.
She's 23. Very committed.
So Saini was talking to me off camera about how FCCC goes out and does work in the public, talking to different stakeholders and also speaking to women in rural areas. You shared something about how you spoke to women entrepreneurs, small canteens, and how now they're being empowered through these workshops that you carry out.
Yes. Well, we do that in conjunction with the UN Young Entrepreneurs Council, where we actually go out and actually empower these women in rural areas. And it is something that I would say, I would just add on to that, is it's more on passion. If you understand the people and if you have that passion to serve these people and educate them on the little knowledge that you might have, that you want to share with these women, they actually value it. So when we go for awareness sessions, not only am I able to explain to them what their roles are and what things that they are supposed to know under the FCCC Act, but I'm able to also educate them on a one-to-one. I speak to them in it, okay, I come dressed in my sulira and dress, and you know, they open up more. I mean sometimes they get, well, sometimes when Joel goes, our CEO goes, they get carried, I mean, they're a bit set back and say, oh, this is a gentleman that's here. But when I actually come, we start talking, laughing, and we, you know, they share their experiences with me. And then when I start explaining to them that, see, when you're running a business, at least have a license, a business license. And if you're unable to give them receipts, you know, the receipt book is just about $2 something at the supermarkets. Why don't you give that to your consumers? And you know, when you speak to them at that level, you explain these things to them easily. They appreciate it, and in that sense, they're like, "Hey, Isa, this young lady is coming to explain to me these things," and they appreciate it, and it also empowers them. And I was also sharing that my grandmother as well, at the village, she used to run her small canteen. And I mean, I could relate to that when I used to go and do awareness. I mean, I could relate to how my grandmother used to do it. And I'll always empower them into telling them that there are better ways you can run your business. And there are also other mediums, not only there's Facebook, there's not only the Ministry of Women that can assist you, but there are other ways. And even if you can work with FCCC, we can help you in actually educating the other women in the villages. So we always have that inclusive approach to people.
In the next segment, we'll look at walking the line between balancing work and home life, and also tradition and progression. Welcome back. Now, Shami, let's look at walking the line between home and work. It's a constant struggle for whatever work that you do, whether you work in an office or whether you have your own business, whatever your age may be, just getting the balance right about making sure you meet your targets at work and making sure that home life doesn't suffer. How do you manage that?
Well, like my dear sister said, that we're multi-skilled. So time management is of essence, and we're very good with time management, whether it's with our children, with our husband, in our work. Have you seen a woman? Sometimes I get amazed, because if I'm picking a pair of shoes in the morning to go to work, then I have a bag, right, on my shoulder, and then I'll have a laptop somewhere else, and something else clashed, and I said, oh my God, I'm amazing, I can handle so many things. So that's something that all women are gifted with, God gifted. It's not only balancing work at home and at work. We have our family. I think for a woman, they say behind every successful man is a woman. It's vice versa, because behind every successful woman is a man, and her family and her work colleagues also. Now for me, it has been trying to balance it at home, at work, and external pressures as well. Being in broadcasting industry, being exposed to public, that has been a lot of external setbacks, a lot of unkind words that is spoken, but the good thing with me is that I don't give importance to something which does not hold any water or is, doesn't really matter. So being focused is one thing that really helps you balance a lot of things too.
I'm sure you share the same sentiments. But let's look at Fiji. We live in the Pacific, and of course, culture, values, and traditions we hold very dear to us. It's part of our roots. But balancing the need to have those as our core values, and also moving forward in terms of progressing as a woman, as a worker, as anything, just as a human being. How do you walk that line?
Well, like you've shared also earlier, is that it's the strong women of the past that have created the stronger women of today. So having that balance, I would say it just started from home. It's also the support that you get. So back in the days, the support was not really there. It was a struggle for a woman that's, you know, climbing up at leadership level. But now it's so simple, it's not really that simple, but it's simple in the sense that you have people supporting you. Not only your spouse is supporting you, but your immediate siblings are supporting you, your parents. Unfortunately for me, my parents have passed away, but my siblings and my husband have been very supportive. And then that not only has enabled me to who I am today, but also it has enabled me to empower my own family. Even at home, I mean, at my family, I'm like the youngest. And should I have to say anything, you know, in the traditional mindset, they're like, okay, you're the last person, you're the fish of you're the tail of the fish. You're not supposed to be heard. But now, if I have to say something, I say it outright, whether they like it or not. I don't mince my words. That's how I was brought up. If it's to straighten or if it's to strengthen or progress the family, I'll say it. And in that sense, not only have I empowered myself, but also empowered the family members. My family members, now they're able to say what they want to say. Now they're able to add value to our family. So that same thing, I bring it back to the organization. I ensure that I add value to my organization. How do I make decisions? Do I make unsettled decisions, or do I make firm decisions? And when I make those decisions, do I have the support of my staff? Yes, I do. Especially, like I said, when you have that inclusive environment, you include all your team members in making that decision, you make everybody happy. At the end of the day, you can't make everyone happy, but if you're firm and you're strong with your decision making, you're good to go.
I believe that traditions and sometimes our culture and our belief could be a hindrance to an extent. It could emotionally hurt us or upset us, but where do we draw the line? That's when we sit down, we reflect, we see the bad emotions, we put it aside, and you have to. And then you look at what will take you forward is important, because we women are very emotional. And I'm not saying that it's easy. Challenges do come. It could be at the home front. It could be at workplace. It could be something to do with culture, religion, tradition. It does come. But rising above your emotion and not letting your emotions drown you and discourage you. But I will encourage all women to be like very focused and then motivate you. Self-motivation is what we need. We cannot be dependent on other people to motivate us. And these things are important.
Now, of course, knowledge is power, and this is where information and access to information is very, very crucial in terms of changing mindsets and the paradigms that have been set in the past. Like you've mentioned, strong women of the past have made strong women of today. But progressing sometimes does have its setbacks. You happen to have those who are naysayers. Just quickly, if you could just divulge your thoughts or just let us know. What do you think about some of the comments that have been made in the past few weeks by some of our politicians regarding some very degrading, sexist and racist comments, and how that hinders, all the progress that's been made by women in the country?
Well, I would say, like I said earlier, it's all about perspective. It's all about your mindset. So if your mindset is still back 10 years ago, progressing with the country and progressing with yourself as a leader today, it'll just take you back. You're not able to actually look forward. You won't think strategically. You won't think tactical. You won't think for the betterment of others. It's more self-centered. So, I mean, comments that have been happening over the past few weeks.
Just to quote Honorable Mbulitavu had said that if Itoke men beating up their women, it's attributed to their build or their size, their physical prowess. That, of course, sets things back so many years. All the progress has been made in rural communities and in urban centers, making sure that women are aware of their rights, of their welfare. And then when comments like these are made, of course, we live in Fiji, which is a very leadership-driven society. If we were to take our cues from leaders who make comments like that, of course, things would just disintegrate.
Well, that's correct. I mean, when you're at such level, you should be very careful with the things that you say. You should really take things in a holistic manner. So when you're saying things in a public forum, you have to ensure that you're not hurting the other religion or the ethnic group. Because at the end of the day, I will always say there's no race, there's only one race, that's the human race. Right? So if you're able to understand how things are moving, then I don't see how such comments should be able to be, should be allowed at the first place. I mean, like I said, it's the way your perspective and your mindsets are. So if you have a broader mindset, if you have a more strategic thinking of a mindset, then these things should not be there. Like for us women, I mean, if I have to relate to that, I strongly disagree on a personal note. I strongly disagree because you should not making those type of stereotype comments. I mean, from E2K women, it doesn't make sense. I mean, at this level, and then you're saying domestic violence, like you said, this DVRO, the domestic violence is not allowed, zero tolerance at all levels from police to court. So I mean, and then you have leaders such as this saying this type of things. To me, from my perspective, I don't really understand why they would make such comments.
We'll pick up from this discussion in the next segment. So, Shami, we left off in the previous segment talking about Saini's opinions on what was said, the comments by Mr. Mbulitavo. Of course, in that one post, there were quite a number of things that were said. One of them was about women of the Hindi community, the Indian community, referring to them or sort of making the implication that women in those rural communities who are Indian are of loose morale because they happen to have extramarital affairs. Now, you're from the Northern Division. Can you tell us whether or not this is actually true? Does it hold any weight?
I was born in Lambasa. I'm married to someone who's from Lambasa. My parents, my grandparents, my great-grandparents were all from Lambasa. Of course, our descendants came from some parts of India. Let me tell you how I felt when I heard about that, and then I'll come to this question. It was the night of the WIB Awards, when we were sitting there waiting to be announced who the winners were in our category. And then a Minister for Tourism, Honorable Pramila, goes and says that it was, and she mentioned that how could someone make a comment like that? And I was saying, what comment? What happened? And then I found out. When my name was announced for the award, for this category, I was so happy. I said, if my mom was alive, she would have been so happy. If my grandfather was alive, he would have been so happy. But then when I thought of that comment, I felt so hurt. I felt so hurt. I felt that that comment was hurled to my mother, who grew up in sugarcane belt, because my grandparents were sugarcane farmers. I felt that was an insult to my grandmother, to my aunties, you know, and I was so emotional. I said, this was like, it was almost like someone telling me on my face that, you know what, Shami, your mother, your grandmother, your sister, whoever, will lose women in the cane field. Now, coming from a leader, I really don't care who said that, whether it's a leader or a normal person, is totally unacceptable. The same on comment made about Itoke women are prone to domestic violence and this kind of violence because of male being of heavier build. I mean, no, we are not going to tolerate that, whether it's an Itoke woman or an Indo-Fijian woman. Here, the country, the Prime Minister is talking about violence against women on a national and international scale. Everyone is trying to run with that vision. The whole world is. And you know how Fiji has got 70% of domestic violence against women. We are moving towards making a comfortable workplace, home place for women. And then you hear someone of caliber representing people in his leadership authority making this comment. What are you trying to say? You trying to incite this violence in homes? You trying to encourage this violence in home? And I would encourage all other women who are in power, who are sitting in the opposition. Why are you quiet? Come on, you have to speak on our behalf. We can't let this happen.
Saini, what would you say to those women out there who are struggling with the idea that they want to move forward, but then there are things that hold them back? Of course, you've made the progress in an urban area. There are women who are disenfranchised, living in poor communities, in rural communities. Some of them are retired. Some of them happen to have disabilities. How do they move forward? What sort of encouragement would you give them?
Firstly, I'll say, well, the government has actually opened this up for everybody. Like I said earlier, free education from primary to tertiary level. They've got the TEL system. I mean, the government has opened it up so much that it allows everyone, not only from us women who are in the urban areas, but also for women in the rural areas. So if we educate our women, well, the government is actually saying we're going to educate our women and all our children by providing them free education, then we, in that sense, the government is also empowering our women, the ones at the rural areas. But the thing is, whether you're at rural or at urban, you always must have that self-trust. You must always trust yourself. If you know that this is your goal, by this age I'll be this, by that time I'll get my degree or my master's or whatever it may be, you always have to trust yourself, have that self-confidence. Because I would say that if you do not have that self-confidence, you will not be able to achieve better. You'll always second think all your decisions. I mean, we can share this, is that, at manager level, to see myself jump up at GM level, at first I was like, no, I can't do it. I held back. But that is something that all other women will actually say. I can't jump to CEO level. No. It's all about self-confidence, and that's where, like I said, your support group comes in. They'll always say, no, you have that talent. You have that passion to serve people. You can do it. So to those at rural or here at the urban areas, it's all about trusting in yourself. If you know you can do it, you can do it. If you know you can achieve it, you can. Don't let people around you or comments such as this hinder you from progressing. You can do it.
So we're hoping that from here on in, women out there are going to be encouraged, and also, just as the boys have their All Boys Network, maybe women are going to start off with their support networks as well. Thank you very much for coming on to the show, and congratulations once again on your awards. We hope to hear from you again with more awards. That's all we have for this week. Join us again next week with another show.